Have you ever trekked from the foot of a mountain, climbed to her summit, and see the spectacle of creation? To see the forest from above the trees, to brave the waves towards oceans deep, to stare into the vastness of space on a perfect summer night, knowing you sit on a pebble in a pond of infinite dimensions. If art reflects life, then nature is the greatest work of art gifted to man, and second only to one of my favorite games of all time, Sins of a Solar Empire: Rebellion. Published in 2008, Sins of a Solar Empire was a brand new game developed by Ironclad Games and places you as the leader of a spacefaring civilization embroiled in a galactic war. You can choose between 3 different civilizations which all sport their own special capital cities and megastructures, which look beautiful as they explode into a billion trillion pieces throughout the cosmos. Every planet you conquer becoming another cog in the most explosive arm race on Steam. Dominance is the only way to survive in this cold, merciless universe of Sins of a Solar Empire, where each civilization has split into 2 factions and given sick new megaships called Titans. The Dark Forest is our universe, and the greatest sin of all might be the balancing. Honestly, this game is about as balanced as rock, paper, scissors. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy as we start a brand new game. But first, The Chronicles of Narnia. Having nothing to do with this game, now is the time as any to talk about C.S. Lewis. As tenured professor in Cambridge, he would write many essays, including An Experiment on Criticism. He would go about defining 2 kinds of readers: those who would reread a book and those who would not. He would also state that a book should be judged by how it is read. By that logic, I say games should be judged by how they are played.
Was it Latin?
Yes. Is it Latin for worst game ever invented?
What's interesting about this game is that despite its world building and the narrative given to us after booting it up, we find that the story starts and ends before the game really begins. When we finally reach the main menu, most RTS fans expect some kind of campaign. Really, there is room for 3 considering how many factions there are. But no, we are given 2 options: single player or multiplayer custom games. We hit single player and are greeted by a wealth of custom matches that range from so small you could play them on an atom, or so large you will play in that game till the end of time. Although there is room for a campaign, at the end of the day, nobody's playing Sins for the story. When we open up the victory options, we find a most curious setting. We have interesting different win conditions, but what I find most curious is that how they're all turned off. This is how the game, in other words, is intended to be played. Even these small details imply a great deal. Is our own universe set to violence? Now, the Rebellion standalone expansion introduces 3 new playable factions by splitting each civilization into 2, introducing their own unique characteristics. This gives the game a ton of replayability and makes the game extremely interesting during the endgame. This expansion basically makes every single one of these factions extremely broken, but if you ask me, that just makes the game fun. Anyway, we're gonna hit the random button and see what we get for our first playthrough. As the dust settles and our new universe is rendered into existence, our attention is brought back to a lush blue marble with a familiar life-sustaining atmosphere, and the second we give it a click, we open a control panel where I am drawn to the Planet Development tab. As I click again, my mouse is hovering directly over the Upgrade Civilian Infrastructure button. The game is directing my attention to the fact that there are timely upgrades to be done. The game also gives us a few important ships to start out with. A seeker vessel in hopes that we are true to our adventurous spirit, and 3 construction drones. Now, these construction drones are good for construction. Although the game starts us off with a few orbital satellites, when we zoom out and click on the planet and go ahead and click on the construction tab, we can find all the different satellites that we can construct in this planet's orbit. We start by building the Temple of Harmony to facilitate research, and so begins our journey as we take our baby steps into becoming the super dope Supreme God Emperor that would put Paul Atreides to shame. Now let's check some important essential pieces to the board and how they work. Capital ships. No doubt a game changer in every armada. We see that each capital ship has its own unique abilities. Each ship plays an important role in the composition of a good fleet. What you choose depends on your play style. For us, we're going to start with the progenitor mothership in order to begin early colonization of closed systems. So it appears we have a visitor, though through simple observation we can see it is just like our own seeker vessels built for the first part of seeking and destroying. We can also see that this faction has intended to cheese us right off the bat. So we're going to hurry to constructing a bunch of defensive units in order to mount the most important defense this planet's ever seen. And we can also see that despite coming from the same tribe and people, the voice of the Senar has decided to aggro. This entire sad state of affairs honestly reminds me of the Three-Body trilogy written by Louise Cixin. I don't think this game was meant to be a literary device for the Dark Forest, but damn, when I played this game for the first time at 12 years old, I was like, I think I get it. We are confronted with a seemingly empty universe in search for life, only to be ambushed or annihilated upon discovery. All living things seek to survive, secure resources, and multiply. The greatest obstacles in life are other living things that wish to do the same. Our ancestors and those of other spacefaring life were almost certainly inventive, competitive, expansionist, and greedy for resources. At first glance, this seems like a tragic state of affairs, though it makes sense and is actually very immersive. It also provides us greater purpose. If the Dark Rule is true and the reason why we don't see any life is because it is in fact hiding from itself, then we need to shed light on the sins of a solar empire, turn every planet upside down, and let the universe know we are out here. As we rally our own forces, we can see that the AI is already forming opinions about itself and encouraging us to attack the Advent that attacked us earlier. These missions provide the necessary input to trigger a diplomatic victory if it was on. No doubt they're gonna love us. Now, the most important part of a real-time strategy is production. You need to be able to drum up an army as soon as you lose one. In this top right panel, we can buy and sell crystal for necessary credits. We're going to start production on Planet Crushing Capital, but before we can, we have to make sure we got the logistics to supply an epic fleet without running out of gas like a Russian tank column. Since we're here, we're going to bang up their production line a little bit. As you can see, their production of capital ships has come to a halt. Meanwhile, our own ships seem to be achieving levels by gaining experience, and here we're going to pick and choose the right moves so that we can speed up the process of galactic conquest. Our purge ships are ready to be produced. After production, we send them straight to the war front, and here you can see them laying down sweet bombs as we take over the very first home planet and effectively eliminate one of the civilizations from the game. After conquering the homeworld of the rebellious Advent faction, we dab ourselves up as we've effectively doubled our resources. However, most planets aren't Earth-like, so getting terraforming technologies will be essential to getting the meat and potatoes ready for the endgame. Honestly, the amount of credits, metals, and crystals we start raking in really starts to heat it up. With all the extra income and resources, we're constantly upgrading our ships, producing new units, and hopefully keeping our upkeep up. Fleet logistics is as important as ever as your army starts to grow. Now, as we continue our journey, we finally bridge the gap between our civilization and other factions, like a massive mushroom nebula spreading her roots and spores planet to planet. we really start to get a sense of scale, and though we haven't won yet, with the use of exotic artifacts that we had discovered on one of the colonized planets, something we will discuss more in length in another episode, and along with the volume of resources we are making, we can start the production of our epic Titan class flagship. Truly titanic, very expensive, unless we hit a grain of sand while we go light speed or a metaphoric iceberg, this thing will be unstoppable. Make quick work of enemy capital ships. A Titan can really end the game, a true game changer. And as we take it to the ends of our solar system, we can find the Trade Emergency Coalition faction, or as I like to call them, humans, have made their own Titan. We slice up the enemy Titan with epic squadron bombers that severely counter these beefy boys with sheer numbers, like Japanese honeybees to the Hornet. We don't even need to get our own Titan involved, since we're ripping this play right out of nature's playbook. Kaboom. Gross. We push forwards and find an absolutely epic Trade Coalition starbase, looking like something out of a Star Wars, out of a Battlestar Galactica. It's absolutely incredible in scale, and in my imagination, this is like the Star Trek headquarters. Unfortunately, this too must fall. Like the greatest game of dominoes ever, we are forced to push on and forward. I contemplate the dark, cold future for a greater life, if we're allowed to pass the test of time. A distant future where all that remains are but the final stars between light years of nothingness. All of life brought together to one last kumbaya. Will we see the final battle? Maybe we will wait the universe out together, like a cosmic family. As we finally conquer the last planet, we achieve military victory, as well as a new achievement for defeating 3 hard AI at once. It's fun warping ships from planet to planet, conquering everything you see, juggling trade routes, upgrading your ships in order to defend your planets from growing enemy armadas. A huge factor to victory or defeat is in the tech tree, and carefully balancing it in order to fight off empires while maintaining a steady economic growth. I won't spoil the metagame, but mass producing the Clone Wars is really where the meat and potatoes is. The game is still receiving updates to this day and has a very active community. We can find all kinds of artwork inspired by games, themes. In general, this game is very well received, which is why I think it's so weird that I never see any videos about it. There is this one scathing comment that even received a comment from the developer that quickly summarizes the state of the multiplayer. We can see that this game is designed to be competitive PvP, at least at first glance, by the giving of equal amount of pieces to each faction, as well as having similar abilities. However, when we check out the reviews, we can see this game has some problems with the multiplayer. Maybe we can encourage the development team to make a matchmaking system restricted to smaller planet systems, and to balance it online. Maybe change the metagame a little for online players. There's a ton of achievements in-game and are also linked to Steam. If you're feeling up to it, hit me up through the comments. And if you'd like to see more videos and DM me about playing games together, go ahead. We can grind out the achievements or just play Sins of a Solar Empire. Don't forget to ring the bell, hit like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next episode.